Yeah, so I decided to move to a different room. Even bought lights and shit. So trying something different. What's up, guys? This is Courtney, one half of the rest of Deconstruction here, and I'm bringing you my super late review for Spider-Man 2. Now I'm ready to actually sit down and finish a review because Bruce has finished his original trilogy of the X-Men. So he just posted his video for X3 The Last Stand, I think a week ago. So I'm trying to catch up now. Plus he's checking me like, hey, weren't you supposed to finish Spider-Man? I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get around to it. So now I'm here. Anyway, jumping into the film, Spider-Man 2 is the sequel to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Now, this is heralded as one of the greatest comic book movies ever, and depending on who you talk to, still the best Spider-Man movie we've gotten. Watching it again, there's still some validity to those statements. However, I do think that due to the times, while the story is still great and it's still amazing, there are some other qualities that Spider-Man Far From Home and Spider-Man Homecoming have over Spider-Man 2. Let's get it out of the way. The acting overall is really, really good. Tobey Maguire is still a really good Spider-Man and a really good Peter Parker, and I think this is the movie that best shows his portrayal of both, because people either pick like Andrew Garfield or Tom Holland as Spider-Man and Parker over Tobey Maguire. However, Spider-Man 2 is a really good example of what the Peter Parker character can be. Peter Parker is supposed to be down in his luck. Peter Parker is supposed to, not be in a really good financial position and, really, really unreliable because of his double life as Spider-Man. And he's supposed to try to balance those two sections of his life together. Spider-Man 2 has that in spades. And I didn't realize it, but that the movie is 2 hours long, and we get the whole comic book arc of Peter throwing away the Spider-Man suit in the garbage can in the alley and Peter losing his powers. We get that halfway through the film. So the first half of the film is really Peter just trying to deal with life and failing at it. And then, he starts losing his powers, and then he realizes, okay, I don't have this burden of being Spider-Man anymore, so now I can kind of live my life. But going back to the acting, Tobey Maguire is really, really good. And I never really got the sense of his Spider-Man wasn't really sarcastic or wisecracking as other Spider-Man when he is. And I don't get where people think that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man didn't really have that. Even his Peter Parker is very sympathetic because he's trying to balance both, and he wants to live as normal of a life as he can. He's trying to work a job as a pizza delivery boy. He's still working at the Bugle delivering pictures of Spider-Man, and it's just not working out for him the way that he wants it to and the way that you want it to for him. We've all been there, right? We want something to work out, whether it's a job, whether it's something else, and it just doesn't quite work out that way. Now, we're not moonlighting as superheroes, but, that's just an extra part of this particular story. But Tobey Maguire does a good job in his role, so I don't really see where people come from with, the whole, oh, he's one of the worst Spider-Man. That's not true. Now, Kirsten Dunst's Mary Jane Watson, she's not, some groundbreaking performer in this role, and they don't really give Mary Jane much to do beyond being the damsel in distress. Even in this film, there's a lot of moments where she's screaming and she's in trouble and Peter has to save her. They give her a little bit more to do that's not quite related to Peter, but other than that, her being around really just revolves and is tied into Peter overall. James Franco is really, really good as Harry Osborn. And in this story, he has an obsession with trying to figure out who Spider-Man is and wanting him dead because, as far as he knew, Spider-Man killed his father. and Harry still has that relationship with Norman where he's living in his shadow, and he's trying to, it's a weird, like, obsessive relationship where I'm better than my dad, but I'm still looking up to him and I'm living in his shadow. And the moment where Harry unmasks Spider-Man and finds out it's Peter, I think is a really, really good moment, because Harry is determined to stab this person and then unmask him, and then the horror on his face, and he drops the dagger that he grabbed. I thought that was a really, really cool moment. Also, you know Harry is going through some shit when he's like sulking around the house drinking Maker's Mark. I have Maker's Mark in my fridge right now. That shit hits you in the chest like a bag of bricks. And he's just brooding, drinking that shit willingly. He going through it. Alfred Molina is the standout playing Otto Octavius. His Dr. Ock is also renowned as probably one of the greatest comic book movie villains of all time. And rightfully so, because going back and watching this and kind of analyzing his character, Otto Octavius wants to use fusion energy to create like an unlimited energy source for the world to use. It goes awry, it goes, out of whack, and he ends up having like a small accident that kills his wife and fuses his mechanical arms to him. Now there's an AI with the arms that he has an inhibitor chip for, but it gets fried, and they start kind of talking to him in his head. You don't hear the thoughts or anything like that, but they start talking to him in his head and start putting in, no, your calculations were right. You were doing the experiment right. Try it again. We were on the right track before, everything happened. And so then that's when he goes and starts like robbing the bank, trying to get money, because he needs money and materials to recreate the experiment. Because again, this is an amazing power source. So I think there's a very thin line from Doc Ock wants to do this to kind of help the world. And he even has a monologue, not a monologue, but he even has a moment with Peter where he tells him, you're Kurt Connor's student. He tells me you're a genius, but that you're lazy. Basically, he was essentially telling him, don't half-ass anything. You have a duty to use that genius to better the world. So you can see that that's what his motivation is. Now, I think it's a very thin line between just being power hungry, because at the end of the day, when he goes back to create that experiment, I do think it's coming from a place of, we were on the right track. We were about to have this breakthrough of this fusion power source that we can use. But I think his thoughts were corrupted by the machines, in that, if something like that happens, you need to go back and go over everything again and recalculate everything, just to make sure when you try it again, the experiment won't fail. Because this is a very dangerous experiment, as we find out in the film when his wife dies during the first experiment. He second guesses himself for a split second, but then they take over and it's like, no, we were doing it right. We need the materials and money to go do this again. But yeah, overall, I think the movie is really, really good. The effects hold up for the most part. I think there are a couple of instances that are a little bit weird in the film, not regarding effects or anything like that, but Otto looking for Spider-Man, he goes and finds Peter, and people have talked about this before. He goes and finds Peter and throws a car through the window of a diner that Peter is sitting in. Why? I don't know if he knew Peter was Spider-Man or not. I don't think he did, because then why would he tell Spider-Man to meet me at this place instead of just attacking him right then and there? You had to have known that Peter didn't have superpowers, right? You had to have known that Peter wasn't going to survive this. And Peter barely does. Now the sequence that follows of the short zoom-ins going along with Doc Ock's footsteps of the mechanical arms creating the tremors, that's a cool little sequence. But it doesn't make any sense to throw a car through a window and expecting this person to survive. And then after he kidnaps Mary Jane in that instance, Peter is like, he throws Peter up against the wall, he gets buried under some stuff, and then he pops out of it after he leaves, of course. And then he, jumps out and realizes, oh, I got my powers back, my vision is clear again, whatever like that. There are still people in the restaurant, so people had to have seen him pop out of that, right? There's also a really good meme moment from that scene, because after he drops his glasses, he kind of clenches his fist, and I think that could become like the new angry Arthur hand meme. I don't know, I might start using that. The second half of the film is really Peter regaining his powers, regaining that confidence, and I guess you can say rekindling that fire to be Spider-Man and protect the city. Because even at one point when, after he, gives up being Spider-Man, he sees a guy getting mugged in the alley, and he looks at it and then turns around and walks away. Because it's like, nope, I'm minding my business. Again, Spider-Man 2 is still one of the best comic book movies that we've gotten. Yeah, if you haven't watched Spider-Man 2 in a while, I suggest you go ahead and do it. I have Spider-Man 3 to go ahead and watch, and normally that would be accompanied by eye roll, but I've gone on record saying that Spider-Man 3 isn't as bad as people have made it out to be. It's definitely not a good movie, but a couple of changes overall to the story and removing certain characters or doing things just a tad bit differently, and that film turns out much better than what we got. I still think it's better than the two Amazing Spider-Man films. So I've already done a super late review for Amazing Spider-Man 2, which I deeply regretted watching that film. Do not expect a review for the Amazing Spider-Man. And I've watched it once. That's all I need in my life. Be on the lookout for my Spider-Man 3 super late review. And then I also have a couple of other video ideas that I want to do. I think I'm going to start the Final Destination series. But then Bruce also gave me 2 other videos that I can do for super late reviews. And I'm kind of leaning towards one of those because one of them is a movie that I grew up with and I remember very, very fondly. So I think I want to go back and watch that one. I don't want to give away what it is, but I think it'll be a pleasant surprise for people that actually tune into the channel. As always, guys, I appreciate the support, whether it's 1, 5, 10, or 100 views. And hopefully you guys like the setup. These are plastic containers of action figures and movies. Behind me is the counter that I put my Pops and other action figures on that I actually want to kind of display. That's my Gold Zeo figure. In between that is the PMC exclusive Lord Draken figure that Bandai did as well. This little Rugrats Chucky Finster figure is what Bruce got me when we actually went to PMC back in 2018. He got me that. Then I have a couple of Pops. I have one from the Blacklist, Megan Keen. I got her from Toys R Us when they were closing down. And then on top of Megan, I have the Target exclusive glow-in-the-dark Eric Killmonger from Black Panther. After that, I have teenage baby Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. On top of him, I do have 2 Lightning Collection figures. This one is Goldar. On this, I have Lord Zed, obviously from Power Rangers. Now, in between the 2, I have the Toys R Us exclusive movie Power Ranger Funko Pops of Rita and Zordon, the green and the red Rangers from the movie. And on top of them, I have the Blue Ranger, Billy, from the movie. And then, of course, because I love the Green Ranger, if you guys didn't know that already, I have a Green Ranger Pop. And then over here all to the end, I have Earth 23 Superman, who is the black Superman. Apparently he was based on Barack Obama. I just thought it was cool that it was a black Superman. I didn't buy it because it was based on Barack Obama. I didn't find that out until I actually read the little side of the box where they have the info about the character. And then this right here is NWO Wolfpack Sting. As you guys have known, because of my NWO Wolfpack shirt and hat, I love the NWO Wolfpack. And Sting was one of the coolest people ever. So when I saw that they had an action figure for Endo the Wolfpack Sting, I bought it. That's the display I will be making videos in front of now. My super squeaky chair. But yeah, I figured, you know, out here was a little bit more interesting because of the action figures versus being in my room with a computer and a poster of the movie that I'm talking about as the background. So, yeah. Stay tuned, guys, and I'll catch up with you guys later.